Once again, hello and aloha pa to all the people of the planet Earth. Today is 14th of December 2010 in Canada, Ontario, city of Guelph. Time is 10:30 in the night. And I've been gathering my thought in the last few days to talk about the second chapters of the topic, which is the moods, or what is the result of this instinctive desire. As we do, what happens and what are the consequences of that. And that takes us a bit to the subject of psychology. And generally speaking, I am not in rapport with the psychologists in the West, especially, since they're looking at the subject, which is their patient, only part of him. They do not look at his the fabric of his life, which is his soul, and the impact of the soul on the body. They essentially think everything that we do is a physical action that results in actions, reactions, mood, emotion. These are all kind of emotions, and if they persist, they become moods, and they're kind of sickness. A lot of things that I essentially disagree with them. I've always said that. They look at the animal part of who we are and they have no clue, because the very central core part of the matter is to believe in the Baha'u'llah, to recognize Baha'u'llah as the very center. If you don't recognize the center, you're living in a solar system and you still don't know there's a sun. And I've spoken this before, so if you're just listening to me right now, you would have to go back to the previous topics. I remember talking just a couple of days ago to my son and about the impact of the soul or a spirit on the body. And I told him anything that happens in the soul, anything that the soul has, definitely it would have an impact on the body all the time. Even if you feel compassion, if you feel to go to martyr, if you feel to sacrifice, definitely there will be an impact on the brain, on the body, everywhere. It is impossible that, because these two are completely coincide with each other. I would not say connection, because matter doesn't connect to the non-matter, but they're like two lenses of blue and yellow that they're on the top of each other, and you always see green. So if the blue changes at any time, there will be a change into the green color all the time. Therefore, then he kind of said that, when you say that, if, we become compassionate and feeling kindness and generosity or love, and something happens in our brain, some compound, some chemical, maybe, we can find out what that compound is and then go and make that compound and make an angry man, a cruel man to become kind. I told him that is not the case, because I'm not saying that we can't do that. You cannot reverse the reaction and you think you're going to get to that one. When I drive my car, whatever I do, something happens in the car. If I speed up, and so if you think you could do those things, then I'll appear behind the road. That's not the case. What my impact on the car, and if you copy my impact on the car, does not bring me back into the car. So I said no. In that case, if you make him kind, then you have taken the will away from him by the substance. Then he has not willed himself to be kind. You made him kind. That is what God doesn't want to do, I said, because He's done it to animals. Some animals are kinder, some animals are not, by our standard. Or that's how we feel. But which actually it's just the effect of those chemical compounds in their body, whatever the behavior and attitude they have. So in the case of humanity, when you say soul, you mean willpower, you mean imagination, you mean thinking, you mean comprehension, you mean a spiritual memory. Those 5 spiritual senses starts with the willpower. So if he doesn't will himself to do it, if he wills to do it, if we will to do it, then it's our soul doing it. And then there's an impact on the brain. If somebody else does it for us, put those compounds in our brain, then we have no will. Somebody else has willed for us, then that's not us. So, and he said, Daddy always have some answer in your sleeve. So this is where I go, and we have to talk about this. It's a pretty deep topic, to be honest with you, and it needs years actually of research, but in the right track. I'll try to help out today to bring us maybe to that track a little bit. So I wrote a few things for myself, notes, and I'm referring to that. The first thing I have to say that when it comes to metaphysics, it seems everybody has his own dictionary. When I define love, it's different from somebody else's does. So love is not a tangible object, it's a subject, therefore there's different standards or different definition. By the same token, when you look, even I was looking at the internet the other day, somebody calls compassion an emotion, or somebody else says this is a mood. These words, essentially, when you look at the psychologists today, you're all here as mood, emotion, sometimes ethics. There's no quality, there's no attributes to say compassion in the Baha'i faith is not an emotion, it's not an ethics, it's not a mood. It's an attribute, it's a quality of the soul that is very different from anything else. Now we'll have to discuss these things a little bit. What do we do? And some of them, psychologists, they say, well, these emotions and the moods are a negative and positive. For example, anger. Anger, it is a negative thing, but it could also be positive. If we do not never get angry at something that's very wrong, then we're not human. So I disagree with them on classifications of what's positive, what's negative. It's totally relative. That is not, correct. And you should not be baffled with these words. You have to have kind of your own definitions of your moods as what they are, and when you fall into it and what you have to do about it. So there are many moods that they have no names. There's no words for them because people in the past, they were not studying human behavior that much to bring up all these words. And sometimes there's lots of extra words for the same thing. You know what I mean. If you read one of those dictionaries, you'll know. So, but before this topic, starting the second chapter, I said that, it is the instinctive desires that create moods, those moods that are created by our instinctive desires. It gives rise to certain moods, and these moods, they can become result in habits, and as a result of that we develop ethics that makes us to do certain deeds, good deeds or bad deeds. And those deeds eventually, if we start to give, it makes us generous, and when these qualities in us becomes more than 50%, we install a new format of humanity. I call it the spiritual. In the Baha'i faith, we call it spirit of the faith. It is not a human spirit, as you know, and it's not the spirit of the prophet of God also. It's something in between. It's more like a photocopy of the real thing. So I best define some of the words that I'm going to be using in my own context so it don't get mixed. So whatever words that you will like to use on the results of this instinctive desire, I call them mood. And actions is a word that I use for general actions, whether it's acts of good or bad or whatever act that we do, physical, spiritual. Emotion, I use this word a bit different. It's an intrigue that asks us to do something good. For example, I don't eat, I don't sleep enough, I feel sleepy. My food is bad, I feel lethargic. You know, I can become sad or, you know, and sometimes angry because distressed or stress, the result of the instinctive desires. Emotion is different. Mood to me is a feeling that we fall into it after we, as a result of the instinctive desire, as a result, as a consequence, is a feeling imposed upon us. We do not necessarily want to feel that way, but we do. It's like a ditch. We have to have some kind of mechanism to get ourselves out of it, which would be the willpower if we have. If we don't, you know, there will be a problem. But emotion are a bit different. Emotion is a feeling, in my opinion, again, that is not the consequence of something, but it is prior to the action. That is like a calling, invite us to do something. I pass by the road and see a house is on fire, and behind those windows there are people, you know, struggling, and somebody's going to die. This creates an emotion in me, you know, a feeling of sacrifice, and tells me to do something. It's an initial feeling in me as a consequence of what I saw, so it's asking me to do something. And it's my willpower to go there or not. If I don't have enough willpower, fear may take over me. You know, an emotion of fear because I can't go there. If I can't do it, I feel sad. But if I